Bruh, ain't no way. Like, by this time, this is just a joke. That's what the US is. It's a fucking joke. So, I was reading and I came across this news article and it says like the Homeland Security is saying that Trump has pulled a Uno reverse. So he has reversed the guidance to pump the brakes when it comes to, like the hotels, the farms, and stuff like that. So initially he was gonna take a step back, but for whatever reason, he done hit a Uno reverse on our ass.
Department of Homeland Security is reportedly reversing guidance to pause immigration raids at farms, hotels, and restaurants after the president said he was willing to exempt the industries from his nationwide immigration crackdown. According to the Washington Post, ICE officials told agents they must continue the sweeps after hearing from DHS leadership that the White House does not support an exemption policy. An assistant secretary for DHS said yesterday, quote, worksite enforcement remains a cornerstone of its immigration crackdown efforts, and there are no, quote, safe spaces for industries. The paper also reports White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, an architect of Trump's immigration policy, privately opposed carving out exemptions for certain industries that rely heavily on workers without legal status, according to two people with knowledge of his advocacy in recent days.
So Mike, this is yet another divide in the MAGA coalition. You got the Steve Bannon wing versus the billionaires, represented by Elon Musk. We've also seen this, of course, in the last story we did, which is the isolationists versus sort of the Reagan conservatives, people that come out of the traditional Republican wing on being for things like freedom. And then in this case, you have a lot of business owners, a lot of farmers, a lot of people in restaurants versus the Stephen Miller wing of the MAGA base. Just basically saying we can't do our jobs here. We can't provide Americans the food they need. We can't keep the restaurants open without immigrants. And we see that divide playing out time and time again. And you have the president going back and forth, trying to appease both bases in some of his own base, both wings of his own base. And in some cases, in these three issues, you can't split the baby.
Joe, there is a significant difference in the distance between the tough-talking policy in the West Wing, led by Mr. Miller, and actual life, the way real-life Americans live their lives. In people working in nursing homes who don't have the proper papers, people working in restaurants, people working in meatpacking plants, people doing yard work for the wealthy or ordinary people in this country. The distance between actual life, the way life is lived, and the way life needs to be lived in this country to keep it going, is really significant. And Jonathan, Martin, I don't know about you, but you keep hearing from people anecdotally the fact that they're shocked with ICE officers crashing through car windows to drag people out, and the difference between working people who do jobs that Americans don't like to do, who are here without the proper documentation. People are now starting, at least the people I speak to or bump into, are wondering about the toughness of this policy.
Yeah, it's one thing to have people lighting cars on fire in L.A. It's a wholly different topic politically when you're talking about yanking folks from a Home Depot or from a home or from a business where they've been working for decades and decades in this country. And I think the politics of that Trump came to recognize last week. But guys, we're seeing in real time here how you try to run a railroad when the conductor really has no core, has no true north, right? So Trump catches flack last week from the ag industry and the hospitality industry and says, all right, we're going to stop cracking down on ag and hospitality, which of course humiliates Stephen Miller, totally undermines his personal project. But that's Trump. There is no conviction here. And then he now walks it back to full Stephen Millerism because he was embarrassed by the coverage and he didn't look like a tough guy. So that's what we're dealing with here, which is two turns of a policy in less than a week, entirely because Trump is responsive to whatever the last stimuli is, whether it was input from the hospitality and the ag industry, or whether it was then the coverage of his flip-flop, which embarrassed him and caused him to go back to the original policy. That's what we're dealing with here. But the folks paying the price for it, of course, are those who are relying upon labor that they cannot get Americans to do. And I think that makes us a much different story than it is going after gangbangers and folks who are committing crimes in this country, where there's overwhelming support for deporting those people. The numbers are just not there when you're talking about people who are in this country illegally but doing jobs and not otherwise breaking laws.